What's fun about G.I. Joe is there's just a phalanx of characters out there for us to bring into the story. And I thought the conceit of how we ended the first with an imposter as the President of the United States was something that was completely unique. How do you do a movie where the President of the United States is the bad guy?
I got involved when I was finishing up my last movie, and I got a call from Adam Goodman, who's the president of the studio here, and they said, "What do you know about G.I. Joe?" And I had played G.I. Joe a lot as a kid, so I rattled off all the information I knew. I loved the toys, I knew I loved the comic books, and I said what I thought a new movie could be like and how that could fulfill that idea. And then he's like, "Will you come in this afternoon and expound on that?"
I didn't know John, and the studio knew him really well. They'd done the Justin Bieber movie with him. And when they first asked me about it, I said, "The guy who did the Justin Bieber movie? Why? What do you guys see?" And they were like, "No, he's really talented, he's really creative." And I said, "Okay, that's interesting. I'll meet him."
We sat down and had a long conversation about what it meant to be a hero, what it meant to be a leader, and how that was reflected in G.I. Joe.
My experience with action movies is you either have an intuitive understanding of what action is or you don't. You can learn how to do it, but you have to have an intuitive sense of it. And John has a real intuitive sense of it. So that was one of my biggest questions when I met him. And then the next thing I found out is he grew up with this fantasy.
What I think was great, about John is, first and foremost, is that he's a fanboy. I mean, he's a fan. He grew up with it. There's not an educational process of, all right, Snake Eyes, well, why does he dress like that? Wait a second, Storm Shadow, I don't quite understand. It's like, oh my God, wouldn't this be cool? Or how great is this? And, so to work with someone who understood that, I think really has made a huge difference in terms of costume and feel and look, and someone who brings that excitement.
If it's part of your upbringing, it's part of your ability to articulate it. You take it seriously. You take Storm Shadow seriously, and you take these characters with preposterous names, but they have a great gravity to them. And for me, that was a really important thing to find, and whoever was going to direct it, was that they owned what it was. So it's really been a great partnership, and I have a lot to thank for Paramount for bringing them on.
The second film, what we really wanted to do in many ways, and it's a challenge, because we wanted to bridge the gap between making what you might call a sequel and really doing an original.
Early on, we sat down with John M Chu and Lorenzo, the producer, and really talked about what Hasbro would like to see out of the brand. More signature villains, more heroic lead heroes, maybe a more central role instead of a group role, and try to find new ways to do things.
The first one, as great as it got a little bit big and sci-fi, and so we wanted to, set it in real world.
First and foremost, we wanted the action to have a real intensity and a real physicality, so that when somebody got shot, they got shot. Somebody got hit, they got hit. That was important to both John and I.
It's interesting, they gave us a pretty blank slate to play with, just in terms of, they wanted to have a little bit of a new beginning from G.I. Joe 1, and as well as keep some of the essential story beats. But it was, who do you guys want in the movie? Like, what characters do you guys want to focus on? It was really liberating and really fun.
Ninjas always are compelling in the franchise, so we really pushed to have that discussion of how we could do more ninjas and more significant ninja battle. That's where we started, and it grew from there.
The hardest thing, I think, to do with a lot of these big tentpole movies, especially an ensemble, is how do you find enough time for each character? And, in this case, we decided to segregate the stories in a way. There's sort of two storylines that are going on, which allows you to sort of get more in depth in both stories.
It was very cool in writing, that those two parallel tracks with the Snake and Storm story and then the Joe revenge story.
And you might even say there's a third path in the villain story.
Yes.
I mean, they're on their track at the same time, and the three stories keep interweaving, but they're each distinct in their own way.
When I first read the script, I literally said, wow, I'm going on a worldwide tour. This is exactly the movie I want to make. And then they're like, oh, and you're shooting all in New Orleans. I was like, oh, okay.
Films like these, the secret to efficiency is containment. So we sat down and said, okay, we obviously can't do all of this in the actual places. So let's look at a reduced second unit approach to some of these places and try to base the movie in one place.
So we flew out there and did all these location scouts, and amazingly we found a desert pit there that we could mold in any way we wanted to. We found places that really double as so many different, from Japan to Washington, D.C. streets.
Instead of the president having his summer residence in New York, for example, we said, what about if he was a Southern president, and instead of having a big mansion on the Hudson, how about a plantation in the South? And without really any loss in terms of the storytelling, that seemed to be okay.
One of the big things we found was this NASA facility. It's 40 acres indoors. We got free reign. I mean, it was like shooting on a giant movie studio. We built huge sets. The prison we built all in this thing. You would walk in the prison and you think you're in the middle of Germany, and we're actually completely indoors. It was insane. Design was such a long process to find the right materials, to find the right colors, to find the right look. And for G.I. Joe, it's such a delicate line. This is sort of the Arashikage print. Ooh, for snake eyes. Ooh, that's really cool. It's little details that make it, but you can see the Arashikage symbol built into the suit.
We've done it on all the Hasbro films, had a designer embedded into the art department, and this is just another opportunity where it's worked out well.
Having a guy who was from Hasbro at Paramount, we were able to really separate these characters. So it's not just an army guy, it's Roadblock, or it's not just a ninja, it's Snake Eyes or Jinx. And if you look at the film, each one of these characters has a very different and very, very unique look.
We have some Joe vehicles, some of the fun things that we have. The Archangel. In this version of the movie, we wanted to feel like the way we used to play with Joes when we were growing up, in the mud, in the sand. So as you'll see, everything has a much more real, sort of grounded existence in our world. We have the Cobra Fang. This is what Cobra Commander flies in, and what's cool about it is we have these sort of jet engines back here. It uses the propellers to go up, and the engines sort of flip up and they take off. You're building a world, and building a world from the ground up is pretty daunting. There's a delicate balance of finding our own thing in it and making sure that we stay true to the soul, the essence of what G.I. Joe is. A little bit lower with your arm, good. Action spanking.
We're having a great costume test and hair and makeup, and it's exciting because you're getting to see everybody starting to put on their gear, which makes everybody feel like they're going to do some shooting and banging up around with people. You can see everybody sort of becomes boys and girls today.
Let's start with singles. Who's ready?
So everybody's kind of pumped up, the excitement of Monday coming soon, starting day, and everybody's finding what they look like and what they got to run around with. So it's sort of a pandemonium day, but it's a good one.
Good. Yeah, nice, nice. 2, 1, action.
Last 2 years I've been working out, preparing, talking about Snake Eyes, thinking about Snake Eyes, and now we're here.
Okay, one more time. That's it, yeah, okay.
The unique thing about this character, I think, for the G.I. Joe fans and for the franchise, is that the Blind Master has been a character mentioned in the comic books before, but he was never shown on the animation. So there's no real face to this guy. This would be the first physical appearance we get of him.
Your heart should be as light as snow, yet your spirit as strong as an avalanche. Good, good.
The first big fight sequence that we did on this movie was the Snake Eyes and Jinx fight in the dojo. That was a very intricate and long fight sequence to work out because it's really detailed. There's a lot of elements to that. And we worked very closely together on that. Thomas had great ideas on that. He'd map out a certain sequence of it, then we'd look at it together and we'd tweak it and we'd show it to John and get John's input on it, and then we'd involve the actors with it and get their character inputs on it. But it's all based on character. All these fights, everything is character driven. Everybody has their style.
Set, please. This is one of the things that got harder on the day, because when I was rehearsing without the blindfold. I'm black belt of karate, so I'm familiar with martial arts and fights, and I did some other action movie before. So I was a bit familiar, but when I arrived here, I realized that I have to play with two swords, which is completely different, because I never had to fight with any weapons like this, so I was a bit nervous. Scared, huh? Are you scared? Don't be scared.
We had such complicated fights for her that she actually got very scared, talked to me personally, and was like, I don't know if I can do this. About a week and a half later, I came back, and she was amazing.
2, 1, action! 2, 1, action! During the training, I had some, bad moments, but I think at the end of the day, I managed to do something with them, so I'm happy. Challenge accomplished. I cut you. I think so, yeah, but don't worry. Don't worry.
The dojo sequence was a lot of fun. I mean, I think I lost about 10 pounds every day being on that set. Awesome. 2 months before production, I bought this elevation mask, and it looks like one of those old World War II gas masks. Basically, it just restricts the air that you're allowed to breathe in. I was using that at home, going for jogs. I think my neighbors thought it was a bit crazy. Because of the first movie and because of the suit, I wanted to put myself through the most extreme sort of workouts and situations to be prepared, but nothing beats actually wearing the suit, because no matter what I've done and prepared, wearing a suit for the first time has been a big challenge.
So in my first meetings with Ray Park, I sat down with him and I said, did you have any issues with the suit last time? What would make your performance better? He's like, well, I couldn't move a lot in that suit. It was really difficult. So we had to basically start from scratch for Snake Eyes.
I mean, that suit is very, very difficult, because not only does it have to look good, it has to look good at night, it has to look good during the day, and it has to be practical. Ray has to be able to do all those moves. It has to be able to do all those stunts.
Cut!
The problem with superhero suits is they're not comfortable. They just never are, They always restrict your movement. In the first movie, it was hard to tell if that was supposed to be a protective suit or integral to his body. So what we wanted to do was go back to the original, and it's more ninja than organic, like in the first movie.
We went through maybe 45 designs. We had futuristic versions where the visors were like this long, this big. Then we had different jaw structures. Then we had different material. Did they have padding? Did they not have padding? You had boots.
We changed some pieces of armor where these are really hard pieces, his pecs and over his shoulders. And then we added, softer elements, more rubberized pieces along the sides, so he could actually move, and yet it still looked like hard armor.
And also the color, that we weren't going black, that we were going some black-green, and that the abs weren't going to be these cut-out little boxes, but they were going to be functional belts that clicked in. So it came down to the sort of convergence of functionality and beauty, really. That it was badass, but functional. And the more functional we made it, the more badass it became.
The kids are gonna dig it. I mean, it's gonna be a #1 wish list for next Halloween.
All right, we're gonna do one more visit.
We based the prison on an old Russian mine shaft where they dug, 47,000 feet?
Some crazy thing. It's the deepest mine shaft in the world, and so we thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a prison down there? We wanted it something like 30,000 feet under the earth, and then I think the general concept was it can't be that deep or it seems ridiculous. So we ran with that idea, just this idea of, because he's so deep into the earth, the warden's no longer in East Germany. He's now able to write his own rules because he's in international territory and do exactly whatever he wants to, and that made it just doubly sadistic, which we enjoyed.
No one here dies unless I say so! Fire! Fire! Let's put the helmet on.
Young Hung, I mean, he is just an amazing presence. You know, he is that guy who you look at him, you go, he's a movie star, that guy, right? And, you know, he's a giant star in Korea, and he will be a pretty big star here, I have no doubt.
I was really glad to be back here for G.I. Joe 2, because I wanted to show more of Storm Shadow's character and more of his different side.
And one of our first conversations coming into this movie, he said, I want to bring rage into this. I want Storm Shadow to be raw. I want him to bleed. I want him to have this uncontrollable anger. Anywhere we could find that rage start to pop up and not him be so stiff and ninja, where the ninja and the human collide, that's where we find Storm Shadow.
Action.
Firefly's always been a favorite character of mine in terms of the bad guys, and this is the ultimate entrance. If you're any actor and you're playing a bad guy, this is probably the entrance that you want. It's pretty badass.
When we first read the script, I think Firefly had about 6 lines in the original draft, and we all went, that's the coolest character, who is that? Who's gonna get to play that? It was weird, there was something so fundamentally badass about him.
Making most things go boom by 9 a.m. than most people do all day.
We haven't figured out what accent Ray is actually playing with on the Firefly character, but it's
except that we
awesome.
love it.
It's it's Southern Australian.
Yeah, who knows? But it's great. Like it's an accent of menace, is what it is, and that's what's so great about it.
With a name like Firefly, you can't have him from like Brooklyn going, oh yo, Firefly, what are you doing? No, it's not gonna, you know, it wasn't really one of the Sopranos called, hey, there's Jimmy Two Fingers Firefly. No. There's something much more, in a sense, dangerous about the Deep South. It's that lazy, laconic, sultry sort of, you know, Firefly.
3, 2, 1, action.
John Chu had this idea that Cobra Commander, when he's in prison and he collapses onto the ground, he's looking for an oxygen mask to put on, and the one that he puts on becomes the inspiration for his ultimate mask. So he goes to put this thing on his face, and we see it for just a moment, and it's very reminiscent of the mask that he ends up designing for himself not too long after.
Roll sound, please. Fire in the hole. Sound speeds. B-mark.
We are at the Cobra Command Center. It's the first time we get to see the new Cobra Commander. It took us a while to design both Cobra Commander's look, because we thought it was really important as a fan of Joe growing up, for Cobra to be the Cobra that we remember. The one that we feared is he's one of the greatest villains ever written. So to me, his costume needed to represent the power and what he was to me as a kid in my mind.
This is going to be the greatest redistribution of particles witnessed by mankind. All we've been missing is our commander.
Surprisingly, Louise and her team designed a couple things in the beginning, and as soon as I saw them, I was like, that's what I want Cobra Commander to be like. We knew we wanted it to be strong. We knew we wanted it to have a agility to it, so it wasn't so heavy and like king-like. He had sort of a grace about him, and he would have a pistol with him all times that he could kick ass himself if he wanted to.
The iconic mask of Cobra Commander definitely needed to be done a little differently for this next film. The tone of the film is completely different. With the grittiness, with the character differentiation that they had, it only made sense to bring back the classic Cobra Commander.
This is an origin story for Cobra, really. So where does the Cobra Command Center begin? And this is sort of the center of that. We wanted to find a super industrial place where you could build super secret weapons that could destroy the world, of course. And we wanted to establish the Cobra logo. So our production designer, Andrew Menzies, created this really awesome place. We're actually at a real NASA facility, which is even cooler. We get to use a lot of the real things that have built things that go into space. And we get some fun. We get to establish some Cobra troopers here, too. They get to be creating their army here.
How's my nuclear summit?
It's coming together, but if you think the nuclear aid are going to fall into line...
They'll have no choice.
Mr. President?
Jonathan is a returning member of the cast, and I don't think this movie works without Jonathan Pryce. The movie flounders if that guy doesn't give it gravity. I mean, it is the most important role in the movie in terms of making us believe what we're going to go through in this experience.
How are you holding up? No, you're looking good. People always ask you, is it more interesting to play the good guy or the bad guy? And in this one, the first time in my life, I get to play good and bad. And I wasn't quite prepared for how difficult technically it was going to be to talk to myself. Talking to a piece of green paper on a stick was, I don't know, I have worked with other actors just like that. I might as well have had a green piece of paper on a stick. But no, it was great. We saw almost in immediate playback, they could match the two images of me talking to myself, and I just thought it was an extraordinary thing. They'll find you out, sir, Dan. Oh, I don't think so.
The nanomite effect was more about theorizing about what happens. My take on it was always to try and think of it in terms of, it's not just the skin that makes the difference between Jonathan Pryce and Arnold Vosloo. It's the bone structure is completely different. There's a million things about it that are completely different. And we really approached it thinking about it in terms of, like, scientifically what would happen. It would have to be these things shifting, not just in a surface way, but in a structural way. And we tried very hard to make sure it didn't just feel like a crossfade from one guy into another, that we actually feel these things working. They're not just changing the skin, they're changing his cheekbones underneath, and these things need to slide around, you know, and not just have it fall into it. And then the trickiest thing is, you know, there's no way to motion control a person, so him and Arnold were never gonna move the same way. So it's a completely computer-generated Arnold on the other side. And the real trick is just trying to give the soul of Arnold Vosloo, of Zartan, into that CG face, and that's something we're working very hard on. We have Digital Domain doing that, who did Benjamin Button, so they're the people to go to for that.
The desert attack sequence It really bonded everybody really fast. And what was interesting is after that experience, coming back to New Orleans to shoot the rest of the movie, a lot of the Joes, the young Joes who died in the desert, then left us. So we could actually feel the impact of this sort of young energy going away, and all these people that we just bonded with going away, and then us having to sort of now make another movie with it. So as soon as we started shooting things with Flint, Jay, and Roadblock, you could tell that they were affected by all these people they just met leaving. We actually created 2 desert areas. Because we could mold the sand, we created that area where the explosions were and the aftermath, which was literally right next door. You can't see it in the movie, but it's the same look, but a different place, so that we could go back and forth. We only had a certain amount of days to go back and forth and shoot the aftermath, shoot the explosions at night, shoot the aftermath, shoot the explosion at night.
I really wanted to make sure it felt like another country. It was very important to try and, we were in actually a sand pit in the middle of the woods, so it was trying to shoot away from the trees as much as possible to make you feel like you're in that part of the world, which is very rocky and mountainous. Most movie resolutions is to paint it and blacken it and get junk and things, but we really wanted a real burnt, destroyed look. I've got a lot of friends that are in the army and things, so I didn't want them to watch it and go, this doesn't look real.
There's nothing here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here. Nothing here. Don't tell me what we need to do.
Even as an actor, I have to tell you, you see that set, and it was so easy to be that emotional because it felt so real. Smelling it, seeing it, you looked around, there's dead bodies, it's like, and also all the developing we'd already had of the characters and the friendships we have offset. Thinking about those characters lying there was really, really emotional.
Whoever did this, hey, we'll be back. We need to move. Call it.
We go into some pretty deeply emotional territory as a result of being able to explore what's it like to go out under fire, what's it like to lose people, what's it like to be betrayed. Sadly, we know what people's sacrifice is in our world, in the real world, and we were trying to give some acknowledgement to that.
The character of Joe Colton, he wasn't in the original drafts, but it became clear to us that the opportunity to create the iconic Joe figure, Joe Colton, the founder of the G.I. Joes, was so enticing that we decided to do it.
Now, who to cast as Joe Colton, the one who would embody the soul and spirit of the G.I. Joe?
One, action.
Only one person came to mind, and that was Bruce Willis. Never thought in a million years that he would actually do it.
Merry Christmas.
Makes you wonder about your neighbors.
I'm not sure I would say that I'm doing it because of the action in it, but more because of the G.I. Joe of it all. I still remember playing with G.I. Joes all the time. And now to be a grown man who could play General Joe Colton really is an honor for me. It doesn't seem like I'm playing a character. It feels like somebody that I know. And I felt like I had to live up to it and live up to, General Joe Colton.
You have Dwayne Johnson on one side of the room, Bruce Willis on the other side, and Snake Eyes right next. With these giant real guns. I wanted to go back to my 12-year-old self and be like, yo, look what you're doing. This is crazy.
Open up that couch.
We all grew up watching Bruce and do many, many films. That was a good time to actually get to go toe-to-toe with that guy and have some. That was very surreal. For me, that was probably the most surreal to do scenes with Bruce you have surreal moments. It's John McClane.
I've known Bruce for some time, and we've been buddies, so I was just over the moon when I found out that he was going to be in this.
When you see this guy in the movie, you can't help but think, wow, this guy really is the creator of G.I. Joe. And it's believable. It makes sense because, that's what kind of personality Bruce Willis brings to the table.
Audiences love him around the world, and I think it was a great addition, but it also helped us to really get across for the first time who G.I. Joe was, who Joe Colton was.
What people forget is there's sort of two generations of Joe fans. There's the pre-1980 generation and the post-1980 generation, really. And one is this fantasy thing which we are doing, and the other is a basic soldier in green.
G.I. Joe was introduced to the public in 1964. Prior to that, it was an idea that was brought to Hasbro. The idea was very simple: produce a fully posable man of action for kids. Some might call G.I. Joe a doll, but at the time, it was very important that the word doll wasn't used. At the time, there was nothing like G.I. Joe for boys on the shelves. He was marketed as an action figure, and thus the legend was born. G.I. Joe was the very first action figure.
The original Joe as a concept is iconic. Bruce is iconic in an action thing. You put the two of them together, and for all those fans like my generation and generations older than me, we grew up with that guy. So for them, Joe's in this movie, you know. Who's Joe? Bruce Willis.
He added a completely new energy to the set, and we had so much fun. I was bummed he was only here for a week.
We had more of him in the movie than the time we had to shoot with him. So it was just like constantly going, constant. But Bruce was very accurate, obviously, at his acting. So we didn't take many takes to get what we needed, unless he wanted to try some things with it, which was always fun to see him try some jokes.
You all right?
Yeah, you all right?
My cholesterol's a little high.
Do some interesting things with the powder in your hands. Yes, like you are warming it up, creating energy inside. The chi is building, the chi is building. Bring it up to you and put it on. Clap. Real much on it back. Roll it back.
Roll camera. Hey, Mark.
Set. And 3, 2, 1, action! Knife!
You get to see Jinx versus the Jean-Cree, as we call her, the medicine woman. And that's really fun because she's a real world-class fighter, martial arts person. So, and she's actually the mother of one of our Red Ninjas, which is really cool.
3, 2, 1, action!
It's first time on film, so you get to show her stuff off, which was fun. We were really excited about shooting Snake Eyes versus Storm Shadow. That's like the ultimate battle. At first, in the scene, you know, it was in this big room, it was all crazy, and we ended up being like, you know what, let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it a hallway. Mano y mano. The tricky part is Snake Eyes has to take him alive.
I was talking to the stunt team and the fight guys of what way we can make it look cool, me shooting ninja stars out of the air. The way BH was throwing it at Storm Shadow was cool. It was so cool. It was like a cartoon. It was like watching it firsthand myself. So I just reacted as if I was punching the stars out of the air, and it was a lot of fun to do.
As you know, this kind of genre needs some exaggeration, of course. So in real life, it doesn't make any sense.
I was told I went through 400 rounds of blank ammunition yesterday. The prop guys have been very nice, and they've let me keep the ammo, and I'm going to do something really creative with my kids. Do some arts and crafts with the blank ammo.
Byung-hun Lee is an amazing fighter in his own right. He trained for so long to make sure he knew the fights, and he gives it his all. And same with Ray Park. Obviously, Ray Park started as a stunt guy, I believe, back in the day.
And action!
Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have a hand-to-hand side, like a traditional, it's like a big fork. It's a traditional ninja weapon. So I had to revisit that because they taught me a little bit on the first movie, and I've never used a side before until then. So I had to practice and remember what the old ninjas used to do in the older movies. But this was a different take. It was nothing over the top fancy. It was more gritty, hard, you know. It'd be like two brothers or two best mates just having a fight over a girl.
When I first read the script, one of the most mind-blowing parts of the script was this Himalayan sequence.
The Himalayan sequence in this movie is going to be, I think, a marquee sequence that everybody's going to say, wow, I've never seen anything like it.
It was an homage to a comic issue called Silent Interlude, where Snake Eyes goes and saves Scarlet against the Red Ninjas. It's not the exact same thing, but the concept is very similar. And we wanted to pay homage. So there's about 11 minutes in our movie where nobody speaks one word. It's all action. And that challenge to me was incredible. We did a really extensive previs because we had to know every shot. That section was the most planning for any one section, for sure.
We didn't want these people to feel like Superman. We didn't want to have a situation where we gave them such impossible skills that you didn't feel jeopardy. So from the beginning, me and John were working with an actual mountain climber named Paul Bourne, who does these sorts of things.
We literally set up couches in the design room and would have ninjas swing, and we'd say, okay, if you pick points here, then the ninja has to swing over here. And they were literally Joes that we got, and then we would design the whole thing. We'd show the previs guys. Previs guys would put the cameras in different places. They would design where the shots would be. We'd adjust that, and so it was a very collaborative process.
And from there, it was really important to me that this didn't just become a video game. A bunch of digital doubles and CG people flying around. And some of it's so impossible to do that that's unavoidable. But I tried to map it out for every shot to have stuntmen actually trying to do this. Because you find that it's really hard, you know? And we wanted that. We wanted that difficulty. We wanted a little bit of that clumsiness. We wanted to try and infuse into it a little bit of that, you know, I'm really trying to get you and it's not so easy, you know, and at the same time have them look cool and, you know, in control, but just on the edge of it.
Obviously, you're not going to be able to film a Himalayan sequence in Louisiana. So at the very beginning, before we started official production, we sent a crew up to Vancouver, to Whistler, where the ski area is, up into the mountains there. And they went up into the mountains and it did the most amazing rigging you've ever seen.
It was incredible to see that, you know, weeks and weeks of setup, getting a hook from one end of a cliff to another, how long it took.
Steve Ritzy, who was our stunt coordinator, is just one of those guys that's like, we'll do this. We can do this, you know? And it was just sitting down with him and literally going through everything shot by shot by shot, and then figuring out how we were gonna film it.
A lot of prep work. It was very involved. It was, you know, a couple months of rigging in the mountains. We had huge high-speed winches that were flown up to mountaintops and you know, based and anchored down into big snow anchors covered with big tents and thousands and thousands and thousands of feet of line going out. We had 1,000-foot zip lines that went between two peaks, and then all the lines to run those zip lines and the performers on those zip lines.
And then when we came back here, we were able to replicate a lot of that on stage.
We took over an area of NASA and put this giant green screen, and our ninjas were swinging all the way across.
It was about 50 feet high and about 150 feet long, with these huge trusses of lines that were going back and forth. And they were all programmed, and we literally sat down, mapped it out, went shot by shot by shot, exactly how the guys need to move.
It is a ninja opera. They are anti-gravity Jedis with samurai swords. It's everything that a kid, when I was a kid, I would love to see.
I was really excited before because John had showed me the previews of what he had in mind for this sequence. And I was like, okay, a lot of wire work, a lot of rope work. Okay, my hips are gonna love this. Wire work is great, but it's a lot of work on the body.
On the day, we had Technocranes, we had huge platforms, but we also had like these little cars. We'd have a guy with Steadicam on like, you know, a little go-kart riding behind the guys as they came in and wound up with this stuff that has really, really good energy to it.
Hey, Mark. Background! 3, 2, 1, action! I call we're leaving. Welcome to the historic grounds of Fort Sumter.
That Himalaya scene was so fun to write. It's so massive. The idea of trying to top that was a huge challenge of ours, and Lorenzo had the idea of Fort Sumter.
Well, when we first came in we were looking for a place for the third act to happen. Originally in the script it was someplace different, so we were looking for someplace here that we could make it all happen. So when we saw Fort Pike, and I'd actually worked at Fort Pike for a couple movies before, very interesting architecture. In some ways challenging to work there because it's a fort that's right on the water, on the wetlands. So if you get wind blowing a certain direction for a couple days or heavy weather, the fort will flood.
We had different camera crews doing different parts because we had to shoot so fast there. And of course, at a certain time, that place floods every day. So we keep that in our minds as we shot.
It's kind of neat because you have all the old architecture of Fort Sumter or Fort Pike out there, and it mixes it with all of the new Joe technology. So it's very interesting seeing those battles happening within that architecture.
It was fun to shoot in a real place that had real history. When you're running up those stairs, those are real stairs that, that real soldiers marched on. And to have Cobra Commander, this far-out evil character, marching in on this fan boat, marching into that space, it was almost eerie to feel that there and have all these soldiers around, these giant HISS tanks. It was quite a feat.
Ready, and action. Mark. Everybody okay?
Who was responsible for this madness?
Originally, we were going to shoot in the War Museum, and then it worked out that we couldn't afford it, so we put the money into building a set. It's the final sequence of a major motion picture, so we wanted to give it scale, and I love depth. And it's just space, so it doesn't cost the production that much money to do, so I just took full advantage of the stage space. The local museum has been really generous, loaning us their fighter planes and their Second World War items, and we're going to dress them into the set.
All right, here we go.
Do not do this. There can be no winners.
High score.
I have a soft spot in my heart for the Zartan deals with the leaders of the world at the nuclear summit scene, just because it's a chance for Jonathan Pryce just to have fun and chew it up in a good way.
I figured North Korea for last. Gotta love the little guy.
Jonathan just knocks it right out of the building. I mean, he's just awesome.
And with a force significantly greater than a nuclear warhead. None of the fallout, all of the fun.
Jonathan Pryce, he's really funny, but he's very straight. You know, we always say that he's sort of enjoying his way through it. He loves torturing people, turning a screw in them. And it's sort of a Dr. Strangelove type of set. It's crazy, it's outlandish, and he is milking every moment.
See what I'm talking about? That was a great sequence to do. And also a great sequence to watch. BH and Elodie do their sword play, and it looks as if you're looking at a speeded up film. They do it so fast. And I'm in awe of them. I just think it's extraordinary. They work incredibly hard, and I know BH is looking forward to the film being over so he can eat junk food again.
We wanted to try to make sure that there were just amazing vehicles this time around, and not just vehicles that were transportation, but something that really resonated and is something that is uniquely G.I. Joe.
The vehicles have been one of the most exciting experiences for me on the movie, and that really is a collaboration of special effects and art department and just everybody involved. And it all obviously starts with an illustration and a drawing, so a lot of conceptualizing started, and we did riff off the original vehicles.
The His Tanks is one of the most beloved Cobra vehicles, and we really wanted to put it in this movie. We actually designed and built a real His Tank that goes up and down and moves around.
They literally look like the Cobra's head, and that's the idea of the turrets elevating, I think, was to show the Cobra's head and the elevation and the kind of the Cobra ready to strike, but also people had to come up with real reasons why they might elevate like that, you know, other than just being really cool. Why would you have a guy in a turret go up that high? And of course you need that in order to get at your enemy and try to shoot down on them.
We have two different kinds of tanks. One's smaller, which makes you go, well, is that as cool? And then yet it goes really fast. It's almost like dune buggy meets tank.
The mini tank is a real tank that existed before that we built on top of to make it more Joe-like.
Grab the billet on your left right there, leather square.
Roadblock happens to drive the fastest tank in the world. Not only in the movies. It is the fastest tank in the world. It beats a vet out of the blocks. It's badass. And I drove it. I can honestly say it is a badass vehicle. Not as good as my pickup truck, though. But it's badass.
When it came to Roadblock, one of the things we gave him were these sort of knuckles, these like brass knuckle things, but they're clicks that they click into 2 guns that are attached to him. So he clicks into these guns, he can fire, and then he can press a button and they come off. And the knuckles are still there, and he can click into 2 other weapons, a knife, a baton, and so he's constantly moving. He's beating a guy with a baton, releasing it, clicking into a gun, shooting someone over there, clicking into a sword, slicing somebody, releasing that. So there's this sort of fluid, what we call gun kata motion to it.
Ready, action!
This vest was specifically made for Roadblock. You see the R, and the vest probably weighs about 30 pounds, I think. You put it on, you're ready to go to war.
It's exhausting doing that. One thing about fighting with Dwayne, you know, the fight is such a rehearsed piece and all the moves, because you do it again and again and again. Even when he blocks, he puts it up and you're swinging him. It's like hitting an iron bar. The man is just, he is literally made of rock. It's just, and I was saying, I'm hitting you. And I'm the one walking away going, I don't want to hit him again, because it hurts me when I hit him.
When you first get into filmmaking, you can't imagine doing your dream job this early. You can't imagine being able to actually say, I want to build a HISS tank and have it be there. Or Snake Eyes, one of your favorite characters as a kid, let's redesign it and redefine it for a new generation of young people.
In general, these kind of movies are like you get to be a kid again. But to actually be a kid around something you were a kid around is pretty cool. I wasn't a kid around Transformers. It wasn't part of my childhood. It's fun to do those movies because you do get to be a kid, but it's a different thing. That was a toy you used to play with. That was a thing you used to have. That was a thing you used to identify with.
I watched it every single morning. You know, it was one of my just morning sort of rituals to get up, eat breakfast, my Lucky Charms, and watch G.I. Joe. Now I get to kind of stand next to them, so it's pretty cool.
Me and my little brother, my older brothers, we all are big G.I. Joe fans. But then to be a part of it, that's gravy on the biscuit, as they say in the South.
What is it you say that if you could go back and tell your 10-year-old?
Oh, yeah. If I could go back and tell my 10-year-old self that I'd just done this, like, my 10-year-old self would be running through the streets naked, you know, screaming.
I want one of those.
It's all young boys' dreams. Who doesn't want to do this? Speedboat chases, motorbikes with rockets, world domination. I mean, who doesn't want to do this?
And the great thing is, on this movie, it seems like there's a lot of people that share that spirit about it, about the property, and they're just kind of like revisiting, you know, this special time in their childhood, and it feels like I'm in a backyard again, like setting these guys up, you know.
We're all in the sandbox with our Joes, and we're all setting them up, and that's ultimately what movies are about. It's taking the audience to a whole new place, to a whole new world, and taking them on an adventure. And as a kid, those journeys inspired me to create more, inspired me to make movies, inspired me to draw Snake Eyes on my notebook. And we hope that these movies inspire more kids to create as well.